Hello friends, how is everybody doing today? It is getting to be a very hot Friday, and I thought it would be a perfect time to do another mask makeup tutorial just to show how fabulous you can look in your mask. I'm wearing kind of a funky fun dress. It's got blue and pink and orange and yellow, so I'm gonna use my clothing as my inspiration today, so totally doing that. So hope you're all doing well. Oh, wearing your mask, looking awesome, looking fantastic, feeling good. Your families are staying safe, you're staying safe, social distancing. I have a clean mask after yesterday's lip video because yes, I put lipstick all over it. I did. Yep, why not? So wear a clean mask, when you're out in public, a clean one. Like, I know I've been reusing my mask, but that's because I'm at home. And this mask has only been used at home, and I have not worn it in public. And I have masks in my car to use for when I go out in public and things like that. So, but I didn't want to be wasteful either, like just wasting a mask. So I've been reusing them for the videos. So, and that's okay. But wear a clean mask. My friend Holly posted this awesome meme on Facebook about treat your mask like underwear. It was fantastic. Like, make sure it's clean, wear it the right side, don't go commando. If it's dirty, don't wear it. If it's worn or torn, don't wear it. If it's wet, don't wear it, and such. So these are all great advices on how to wear your mask properly. So cover your nose, cover your chin. Oh, yeah. Today, I've been on Facebook. I've been trying to cut back because it is hard. Like, the social medias are hard. To see, people getting sick, the impacts of these numbers. I just primed my eyes in case you guys are wondering what I did. I forget a lot, but now my eyes are primed, so I can go ahead and put on some eyeshadow. I guess priming is supposed to help keep the eyeshadow in place nicely. In case you guys don't know how I keep my brushes, I've collected brushes like from makeup kits and things for years. I put them in a toilet paper roll. Yep, that's what I do. I use a toilet paper roll to hold all my brushes. Yep, that's me. Toilet paper roll. So I use whatever I can find sometimes. And I really am not a huge makeup person normally, but this is fun. This is an outlet. This is a release for me to oh, there goes Luna. Hi, Luna. Hey, no, come here. Luna, no. Oh, see, she doesn't listen to me. She's just gonna sit there and bark. Luna, no. Hi everyone, meet Luna. She thinks she's vicious. She's a pug Shih Tzu, and she thinks she's one tough cookie, but she's not. She's not a tough cookie at all. Nope. I don't know. This is called Sweet and Shimmer eyeshadow. Remember, I don't have my Luna. No, Luna, come here. Naughty girl. And I'm just using a light color today as the base because this dress has a light color in the background. So I'm just gonna go across the whole eyelid. So what was I talking about? Oh, the socials are getting to me sometimes, seeing what's going on, seeing Utah County people show up in a small crowded room to protest the wearing a mask, not wearing masks. They don't want their kids wearing masks. And then a powerful, courageous teacher standing in the background holding up a sign and wearing a mask that says, wearing a mask is about compassion. Caring about your others. And, I'm guessing that people who don't wear masks aren't saying, well, you can't say I'm not compassionate. How dare you? You don't know me. You know, that seems like they might say something like that. Where to us, this is what, to the mask wearers, that's what it feels like. It really does. And it might be hard for them to hear that, and make them more defensive and less likely, you know, more entrenched in wanting to wear masks. So it's hard. It's really hard. You know, they feel like masks won't do anything. They've had confusing messaging. They want to be able to control, you know, their body and things like that. So I get it. It's hard. And you want, like, people are like framing this in terms of like good and bad, and I've been thinking about those ideas of like good and bad lately and what that means. And the truth is, well, I don't know if truth is the right word, but somehow we have to move past this notion of good or bad. You're either good or bad. We're more complex than that as humans. We are the good, the bad, and the ugly. We are all of it. It's like a combination of things. It's hard, you know. People use good. People use shame. Shame comes into that, you know. If you're not right or good, you get shamed. And shame doesn't work. That just either, you know, makes people want to hide and, you know, not be in public, or you know, like, or defend themselves more. So there's problems with shame. The other thing I've been thinking about in terms of like good and bad, and like coming to terms that each of us is good and bad, is that it embraces our humanity to understand that we're complex and that we're good and bad. And like, honestly, like, what constitutes good and what constitutes bad within our society, those have power structures behind them. Like, people get to, you know, normative structures within society get to have some say over what's good or bad. So, you know, trying to maintain some semblance of good sometimes might be a way of buying into the power structures that be. And it's also denying that you're capable, you know, focusing so hard on being good sometimes and tying it with morality and things like that means that, like, you don't necessarily realize what you're capable of, like the potential of doing things that probably are bad, if there is such a thing as bad, but that you do things that do hurt people. We all do. We do things that hurt ourselves. We all do. I'm putting a little orange now in the corner. By pretending like we're not capable of doing terrible things, I think makes it hard to really evaluate why terrible things happen, and that it's like a defect, and it's really not. It's that we're all capable of doing really bad things. We're complex. We're human. So we're good and bad. And that can be really hard. That can be really hard for people to, you know, want to accept that. And it means, like, sometimes that people, you know, if they get criticized for a behavior, it might be hard to change because they feel like they're being called bad. And it's really not about bad. It's about sometimes power, sometimes, you know, who's in control, different things like that. Not taking responsible for your full actions and such. So I have some orange and pink, very well blended in at this point. I think I want a little bit more pink though. I feel like the pink needs to come stronger now. Moral, amoral creatures, whatever. We ethical, you know, I have my own ethical standards that I try and live by, that drive. And for me, like, I think of my ethical standards is, my number one is to value and acknowledge the complete humanity of each living being. And humanity, we are complex. We're capable of good and bad. Being moral, amoral, power structures are involved, normative structures are involved. We're all of these things, good and bad. And that's, I think, hard, because people want things to be more rigid, more defined, more, you're either good or bad. You're either moral or amoral. You're either racist or not a racist. But the truth is, it doesn't work like that. You can be a racist and not a racist, an anti-racist at the same time. It has to do with power structures that come in and be involved with this, like structural racism. Like, do you benefit from structural racism? Do you benefit, or do you get your life, you know, does racism impact you from meeting your fullest potential? These are not easy questions. But I think acknowledging that we are a lot more complex, and behaviors that we're taught and learned as good or bad, might not necessarily be the right answer for how you're good and bad. You're both. We live in the and sometimes that's contradiction. Sometimes that's, I don't know. Sometimes that's contradiction. We live in contradiction. It's hard. These are hard things that we have to think about, and think about, you know, I get it, like, when people talk about racism and such, or even wearing masks, like shaming people, you're a bad person if you don't wear a mask. It's hard, because shame doesn't work. We are both capable of good and bad. And racism is too, like, people, like, suddenly might be seeing, even me, like, oh, you know, I benefit from this system, the systemic, you know, education-wise, my education, you know, where I live. These are all things that I don't necessarily have individual control or maybe even influence over, but I benefit from them, you know, because of racism and things like that. And so when you label things in terms of good or bad, and oh, being a racist is bad, which, okay, it is probably bad. Yeah, it's bad. But the thing is, we're all capable of it. It's all in us. And that's why being an active, you know, being actively anti-racist is a process, is a challenge. It's something moving, working, learning, growing, changing, resisting those systems of racism that are around us. These are things we have to do. But I think sometimes it might stop people from really looking at, like, the systemic piece of racism, because we have it so morally defined that racism is bad and that you're a bad person if you're a racist. Well, here's the deal. You are a good or bad person. You are a good and bad person all the time. All the time. So we've got to lose this like dichotomy that keeps people from addressing these issues because they want to meet some moral or, standard of I'm a good person.
You're doing your makeup.
Oh, and my dad's laughing at me. Hi, everyone. Hi, laughing dad.
Looking good. I didn't know why you put the house there.
Blend, blend, blend. I don't know. These are my thoughts. Thinking about how or really shuts down. You're either good or bad really shuts down the ability to analyze, the ability to look and say like, yes, I am a good or bad person, or I am a good and bad person. That's just the way it is. That's just humanity. That's us being human. Like, I don't have the answers. Things have got to change. And we are a lot more complex than these memes and these ideas. And I don't like the idea of labeling people good or bad or things as good or bad because there's power involved in that, and then there's shame involved in that, and defensiveness. And people get defensive. And when you get defensive, people don't listen. Don't want to learn, don't want to change. It's hard. It's very hard. So this is my frustration thoughts. Thinking, like, how do we address racism and specifically structural racism, when people don't want to be thought of as bad? But we definitely benefit from, white people definitely benefit from structural racism, and even though if you're not individually racist, there's benefits to that. So you're good and bad. Don't know. Don't know. Probably need to spend time with the book White Fragility. It might help me think these things more clearly through. Not read it yet. It's on my list. Yes, if you're thinking about these things and how to address structural racism and racism within yourself and how to be actively anti-racist without like trying to label good or bad or whatever, and really make change and not get those different feelings in the way. That's one way to think about it. What, or a resource to go to. I did Etsy for a while. I think Ipsy, whatever that's called. And I don't like that pencil. Moving to a different one. I don't like it. Didn't flow very easily. So I got a lot of makeup from that. And we're just trying it right now. I mean, I guess how do we come to terms with that each of us are capable of good, bad, and ugly, that lives within us. And that's, you know, the only way to maybe have better understanding of like how to limit like that destructive behavior is to acknowledge that that's within you and to deal with it and move forward from there rather than wanting to label your, you know, getting stuck in trying to move forward or grow because you don't know how to grow. You're afraid you're going to be labeled a bad person or or you're going to do it wrong or make a mistake. Guess what? We're going to do it wrong and make a mistake. That's being human. That is being human. We are complex. Learning is a process. So that's why I think kind of moving away from shame and ideas of good or bad. You're good and bad. And power is involved in that definition of what constitutes good and bad. The normative structures. That place, you know, that work to control. That's systemic racism. That's classism. Those are the systemic things. Power's involved in all that. Patricia Hill Collins, in her writing, talks about the web of oppression, meaning that oppression isn't linear. It's a web, like there's different things that impact different people. Racism is a systemic form of oppression that exists on that web. Classism is a form of oppression that exists on that web. Sexism, and homophobia, like religious, you know, these are all things that, fatophobia, these are all things that play into that web. Ability, discrimination, these are things that live on that web of oppression, and they're systemic, and so you have to address it systemically. And I guess not by looking at it systemically, realizing that you're actively participant in this system, in this web. Each one of us is involved in this web. We live in this web and are active players in this web. And how do we address that? How do we use our place on the web to address that oppression and systemic discrimination that goes on without getting into questions of good or bad? Because that doesn't help us. Well, I guess thank you for wandering through my thoughts with me today on good or bad. I don't know if they're enlightening or trigger your thought, or if I'm just full of shit, probably. But these are the things I think about. It's true. These are the things I think about. I'm just trying to cover up. I got a little too much black up there, and I don't know how to fix it. Help me. Help me now. So, I don't know. Share your thoughts with me. How do we move from good or bad to good and bad? That it exists and lives within us. And that is by definition our humanity. Does that open up us being able to deal with things better? To give us more freedom to move to address systemic oppressive issues like racism and sexism and homophobia and all the other systems that are working that maintain white privilege. So, I don't know. These are my thoughts. Well, till the next time, be well, wear your mask, look fabulous, and I love you.